right, so presumably let's make sure that we're up and we're live. Let's go ahead and, yep, okay, we are up. That's good. And presumably we've got volume, although I think I probably need to grab the microphone over here. There we go. And there we go. All right, so for folks who are watching and on the live stream right now, we are looking at a tornado warning that's out. For Attleboro, basically from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, through Attleboro and into Taunton. So what's happened here is you've got a line of damaging wind. There is a long history of damaging wind with this storm. In fact, storm reports have been indicating power has gone out in a number of spots through eastern and northern Connecticut. Wind gusts went to 77 miles per hour at Bradley International Airport at Windsor Locks. But now what's happened is you can see where you've got a bit of a notch that's developed inside the storm. There's an apex of the storm here, and this is where we've been talking about what has been at least enough rotation to warrant a tornado warning issuance by the National Weather Service. So the government agency that oversees weather warnings has issued this warning now. So why don't we go ahead and swing you over to what is the storm relative velocity. This is going to be our ability to be able to see inside the storm and see which way the wind is turning. When you have red, air is moving in one direction. When you have green, air is moving in the other. The center of potential rotation shows up for you now, located just east of 295, coming over 123 and headed out toward 146. This is coming through Cumberland and Valley Falls and continues to move off to the east toward Attleboro. And this is the area that is now under the tornado warning from the National Weather Service. The tornado warning information for you, we'll put it on the screen to give you a better idea of what we're looking at. Again, this tornado warning that's been issued will be out until midnight. So it's out until midnight, storm moving east at 54 miles per hour. There is no confirmation of a tornado actually touching down at this point on the ground, but we do at least have indication that right now you've likely got enough rotation inside of that storm that you could form a tornado. Back over to the reflectivity, the more customary view, and you can see where that center of rotation shows up. We are getting our algorithm, our automated part of the system here on our radar, picking up on at least some amount of rotation here, enough to certainly make you sit up and take notice. But again, it really is that view inside the storm that's the one that makes you get a closer look. Okay, here's the updated radar imagery. What I'm seeing that's interesting here is we are looking at one area in the center of the storm that almost appears to have a bit of a donut. You can see that between Cumberland and Valley Falls. And so as that continues to move east, that is the center of rotation. We can swing it back over to the storm relative velocity. And again, you're starting to pinch it off. One of the things that's going to be kind of custom with this storm is you are going to get a very quick spin up. So if you do have a tornado under this, it's going to go pretty quickly because the speed of the storm, it's moving east at 56 miles per hour. So while there's a fairly large area that's off to the east that would be inside of this tornado warning, there's no guarantee that the storm will continue to show the possible tornadic rotation all the way there. But if we zoom in a little bit more to give you a little bit better feeling for exactly what area right now would be most under the gun with the center of rotation, one of the things we can do for you is put some street labels on there. This is Hines Road now on the south side of Cumberland. So if you're between Cumberland and Valley Falls along 114, you'd be under the center of rotation. Farther to the east, Montclair Drive is in the path, Lincolnshire Drive, basically anywhere south of 295, running down 1 and 1A to 123. The center of rotation is again straddling and splitting the difference between I-295 and State Route 123 in Valley Falls. So it's in this area that you're down in the basement. Farther out in the path of this storm, we come along I-95, and we come into the Attleboro stretch, State Route 152, as you come into Massachusetts in Bristol County. This is going to be the next area that you want to be down in the basement, tucked in at the lowest level of your home or business, and make sure that you are at least toward the center of that lowest level if you can. You have time when you get farther out on the east side of the warning, when we come out to Taunton, when we come out toward Raynham, and when we make our way up 123 and across 138. You've got plenty of time before the storm arrives. How much time do you have? We'll take a look here in just a moment. One thing we're going to do is zoom the view out and switch you over to the regular radar reflectivity just a bit, and then we'll end up putting some tracks on here for you with towns and times so you get a pretty good feel for when we think the storm is going to arrive in your location. What I'm going to do is zoom us out just a little bit more so I have enough room to run to make sure that we've got enough space to do this storm track at the speed it's moving. We'll go ahead and we'll put the center of rotation. We'll pull it out to the east at just over 55 miles per hour or so. And this gives you your towns and times that we're putting on the screen. So Valley Falls, you're under the gun here really momentarily within the next 3 minutes or so. Attleboro, your time of arrival would be 11:38. Again, Attleboro is in the path of the center of rotation of this storm. You want to be down in the basement. You want to be, if you don't have a basement, lowest level of your home or business that you're at. The farther out that you go, is where you start to run into the later times. So Bridgewater at 11:56, Kingston, Massachusetts at 12:11, North Plymouth at about 12:13, South Duxbury at 12:14. But notice that when you get out to Plymouth and Duxbury, you're significantly out ahead of the line. So that means that you still do have some time, and you still have a chance at least to be able to get to be able to see whether this storm is going to lose its rotation before it arrives to you. So right now, again, essentially it's west of Bridgewater that we're talking about our tornado warning that remains in effect. If you're just joining us, it's good to have you with us. Bottom line, you can communicate with me with the chat. There is just got seeing your chats coming in. Thank you, Russ. No app notification. You're absolutely right, Russ. That's because I wanted to get up with you right away. I could do an app notification. One of the things that I thought of, though, is a fairly large number of folks are likely going to be sleeping, and I don't want them to sleep through it. At the same time, I want to make sure that I get the right area highlighted. So if you would, I can go ahead and I can also send out a notification, a push notification while I'm here with you, and we will send it out to the area that's under the tornado warning. The hope here is that folks are tucked in right now in a safe place and able to take shelter as this thing approaches. So again, if you're just joining us, tornado warning has been issued for the area in magenta, in purple that you see. That tornado warning out until 12 o'clock midnight. That's going to be when this tornado warning is out until. It is a radar indicated rotation at this point. It is not, again, it is not at this point a confirmed tornado touchdown. Of course, it was just yesterday that we had tornado touchdown that was confirmed when you got into Dublin, New Hampshire, or just 2 days ago. It was on Sunday. But nonetheless, we are talking right now about this new storm that's coming along, a line of damaging storms. It's worth noting, by the way, if I'll go ahead and zoom back in again, that this storm has a history of damage, not because of producing tornadoes, but rather because it produced a broad swath of damaging wind. And so it's not to be ignored that we have a rather large area that's under a severe thunderstorm warning. That severe thunderstorm warning includes a huge area that goes from South Boston, essentially, all the way down to the north side of Buzzards Bay. The severe thunderstorm warning was already in effect and will be out until 15 minutes past midnight. Wind gusts to 60 miles per hour, the concern here. There is a history of this storm of producing a 77 mile per hour wind gust at Bradley International Airport in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. So again, straight line wind is something that we know has been going on with this storm. It's just blasted through Providence right now. I'm going to go ahead and while we're looking at this, I'm going to switch on some of our local storm reports and see if okay, I've already got them switched on. Excellent. So the latest storm reports that we're seeing were out of eastern Connecticut a short time ago. This is where in Danielson, Connecticut, we had a 75 mile per hour wind gust that blasted through. Several trees have been reported down in Moosop, Connecticut. But right now, again, the concern comes for the Attleboro stretch. Right now, Attleboro, you are under the gun with the center of the storm coming overhead. I would like to switch you back over to the velocity so that we can see if there's still rotation being indicated inside the storm. So right now, you don't see a lot of rotation still with the storm, and this is something that's not surprising. If you've been watching for a little while here on the live stream, as soon as we came up, I told you this was probably going to be a brief thing that lasted only a few minutes and may not even survive as a rotating storm all the way to the eastern edge of the tornado warning. And the reason that I was saying that is because the storm was moving so intense, so rapidly as it moved from west to east, that the issue was sometimes what happens is you get a spin up. It happens very, very quickly over the course of only about 1 to 5 minutes. You either drop a tornado or you don't, and it continues to move on its way from there. It would preliminarily appear that that is probably what's going on right now. My guess would be that we are probably talking about something where the rotation has already kind of dwindled. However, with the tornado warning still in effect from the government, certainly you still need to take it seriously. Either way, this is a line of intense wind that's coming in. I can swing over to the regular velocity. What I've done here is I had adjusted it for storm motion so we could see where the rotation was at the center of the storm. But one of the other things we can do is just look at the actual velocity of the wind, and this is exceptional. What we can do is probe inside of this to get a better feel for it, and you'll notice that we've got winds that are on the order of about 70 miles per hour that are coming over Attleboro right now. Are all of these winds making it down to the ground? Not necessarily, but I can tell you that there are pockets along the way that have seen 75 to 80 mile per hour gusts, and I would not be surprised if that's exactly what's happening on the south side of Attleboro right now. I can go ahead and take you in a little bit closer to give you a better feel with a street level view of exactly what we're looking at and where the strongest winds are. The best thing for me to do here is to keep you just ahead of the storm. The radar updates about every 60 seconds or so, but of course there is a slight lag, and it's only a matter of seconds between when I broadcast this and when you see it. So one of the other things that I want to do is make sure that I keep you kind of ahead of the game. So you can see this is State Route 118 that shows up at the center of your screen. Peckham Street showing up just to the right of center. You are in line with this damaging burst of wind. Again, at this point, it looks as though, at least for the latest radar scan, and we get one every 60 seconds, that the rotation has likely died down with this storm, but it is still a core of damaging wind that's going to be coming over Route 152 and 118. State Route 123 will be on the north side of the damaging wind core. It extends down 118 past Peckham Street, basically all the way down to Wilmarth Street, and even you could make the case down to Smith Street for that matter as well, in King Philip Drive. One of the more kind of popular streets that you might be more aware of would be Oak Hill Avenue. And again, really, it's between Oak Hill Ave, 118, and Route 123 that you're going to get this burst of really intense wind with radar estimated wind that's been in excess of 70 miles per hour and a history of that verifying. Let's go back over to the reflectivity, the more standard radar view. Obviously, there is torrential rain that's associated with this as well. We've had flash flood warnings earlier in the evening. We are not, with this system, expecting flash flooding to go on around this Attleboro area. But if you're just joining us, the tornado warning that's been issued, if it's woken you up and you got that advisory on your phone, is out until midnight tonight. However, we are seeing indication that perhaps, and we want to make sure that this continues to be the case, but perhaps we are talking about what is rotation that is dying down inside the storm. And I would say here we now are 3 scans into seeing the rotation really starting to weaken inside of the storm. But again, just because the rotation weakens, just because we don't see the red and green butting up next to one another in what we call gate-to-gate shear, doesn't mean that the wind itself has died down. And one could contend, and I would contend, that you very likely are seeing actually strong damaging wind in the core of this storm that could be just as damaging as a low-end tornado if you've got gusts that are going between 75 and 80 miles per hour, which is exactly what appears to be going over Route 118 right now. Again, just to get you recalibrated into what's going on with this tornado warning, that was because we did see some rotation that spun up fairly quickly inside of this storm. And so the concern was there from the National Weather Service, and still is. The tornado warning still out, at least for now, until midnight, unless it's brought down early. The concern still is that you may be talking about a storm that could produce a tornado. But as you've seen with me, and I will show you every scan as it comes in, it looks like that rotation, which was present at the start of the live stream, now has actually started to come down just a bit. Let's go ahead and drag that storm out. Let's get your average motion at about 55 or 56 miles per hour. Because again, even if it does not come back with more rotation, we are still talking about what is a damaging storm with a swath of straight line damaging wind that has a history of going over 75 miles per hour, which would be enough to knock out power rather significantly and cause significant tree and limb damage that may bring trees down. So these are the towns and times that we have up on the screen. Again, Attleboro pretty much under the gun momentarily for you. Hearing from you in Attleboro now, Michael Power, thank you very much for checking in with us. And the storm is in on top of you, raining sideways. Makes sense. You're getting the heart of the storm that's coming over you. What's a radar beam elevation over Attleboro? Actually, it's very low off the ground in Attleboro. It's less than 1,000 feet. So if you are going to get a tornadic development that happens in the Attleboro stretch, you would see it. This is going to be something that you would be able to pick it up on the lowest level scan. Once in a while, that question comes because as you get far enough away from the radar, then all of a sudden what happens is you get higher up in the sky. So you may see rotation, it's not necessarily near the ground. Attleboro is very close to the radar. In fact, with this storm headed directly for Taunton, and I continue to keep the towns and times up on the screen for you, it actually is going to enter what we call a cone of silence inside the radar in a very short period of time. If I zoom in toward Taunton, you'll actually see that there is a small area that shows up right where I've got the storm ETA countdown showing up right now. That's at Miles Standish Boulevard in Taunton. That's where the National Weather Service radar dome is. And that's where right now, if you get close enough in within a couple of miles, you lose the radar. But up until it gets there, you've got a nice clear view. So with that, let's not wait any longer. We get radar scans every 60 seconds. Let's probe and see if we have any new rotation that showed up inside the storm. And at this point, I would contend not really. We saw it earlier. As a matter of fact, if I go ahead and I play this through, what I'll do is I'll slow it down for you along the way.
There we go. This was earlier. The timestamp is at the top of your screen at 11:23. You saw that we very much had a red and green that were abutting next to each other. The air was moving in opposite directions right next to itself. This was the issuance of the tornado warning. That would continue as it came through Valley Falls and Cumberland, Rhode Island. It moved off to the east, and what you'll see is it began, and this is when we started talking about how a lot of times you get a really quick pulse of rotation. It can produce a tornado when it goes away. So you can see it right around State Route 114 is where it started to get pinched off. You started to pinch off the rotation, and as we go farther out, there it goes. The rotation begins to disappear. The rotation appears to be gone entirely by 11:27 p.m. You go forward to the current time, and you don't see signs of ongoing rotation, but you do see signs of still very significant straight line wind. It looks like that straight line wind is continuing to expand northward as well, so it's up Route 95. There we go. There's the latest scan. Still not seeing any imminent signs of rotation that are showing up with this storm any longer. Again, need to take very seriously the fact that a tornado warning remains in effect until midnight. Also, I need to be very cognizant of the fact that now you can see you're getting a little bit more of a garbled look that's showing up inside and near the radar. That's the storm approaching what we talked about there with that kind of cone of silence that shows up, where if you get directly over a radar beam, and you can see for yourself here, you do tend to lose some of the resolution inside. So you also have to be very careful that in my instance, I don't give you a false sense of security in saying that this thing, the rotation has died down, because it could be just directly overhead of the radar. Having said that, at this point, that doesn't appear to be the case, because as soon as the storm came through Attleboro, we started losing the signs of rotation. So that's good. It had been on a trend that it was losing signs of rotation, and it looks like the tornado warning has been discontinued early. So again, if you're watching on a live stream now, the tornado warning that was up until midnight has just been canceled early by the National Weather Service for exactly the reason that you've been watching here on the 1 Degree Outside live stream, for the fact that we watched together in the minute-by-minute scans as the rotation really kind of disappeared from the storm. It spun up very quickly, and now it's become a path of damaging wind that continues to move off to the east. So if you're watching us from Cumberland, Rhode Island, if you're watching us from Valley Falls, if you're watching us from Attleboro, you are now in the clear. If you woke up, let's see, Superdog on the chat says, had some good wind in South Attleboro on Route 1A, lasted only a couple of minutes, no apparent damage on my property. Good. Glad to hear that. Thank you for the report there. Very much appreciate hearing that. Checking in on some of the live streams as well. Let's see. Looks like just checking on, you can always find us at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com, but it looks like most of you have found us right now on the restreams that are going on Twitter and also on Twitch and on YouTube. Nick, absolutely happy to be here with you. So one thing that I would like to do, if you're in Attleboro, you're in the clear. If you're anywhere along that Route 1 corridor, you are in the clear. You have passed the heart of the storm, or it is past you. So you, if you want to go back to bed, can safely do that. And if you're in Bridgewater, the only thing I would say is, why don't you stay with us here just a little bit longer, and we'll stay with you a little bit longer, because you are under a severe thunderstorm warning. It is an intense burst of wind that has a history of producing 75 to 80 mile per hour wind at its core. And that's been measured, by the way. That's not estimated. We do radar estimates, and the radar estimates were to 80 miles per hour. But what was interesting is you actually had ground truth that was verifying to 77 miles per hour at Bradley Airport, but also in eastern Connecticut. Chris, do you remember what town that was in eastern Connecticut that also logged in with, I don't know if it was Danielson. It was somewhere in eastern Connecticut that logged in with about 77 miles per hour in the storm reports as well.
That was at Bradley Airport.
Bradley got that one, and we had another one that came in. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Here it is, 75 miles per hour in Danielson. It was Danielson. Danielson, Connecticut was another spot that ended up getting a blast of a very strong wind that came through. Now just getting reports of several trees down in Providence, Rhode Island, Broad Street at Sheldon Street, Mathewson Street, Burnside Street. Time estimated from radar. There we go. And so that's the new severe thunderstorm warning. Is that correct? Oh, flash flood warning now is out as well. There it is for Boston. Thank you, Chris. All right, so you've got a flash flood warning now until 45 minutes past midnight for the Boston Metro. The big reason on this, I get it. The big reason on this is because you already experienced the heavy rain earlier. You had flash flooding. Columbia Road, we ended up with flooding, and there was water under the underpass. So now you're getting another burst of heavy rain. And even though it's not nearly as strong as it was earlier in the evening, the concern here becomes, all right, are you going to be able to flood quicker and easier because of the fact that you're getting the heavy rain on an area that already picked it up? Here's the minute-by-minute scans now as the storm begins to clear that radar dome site at Miles Standish Boulevard, and we'll start to move off to the east on the east side of Taunton. We'll get a better feel for it and a better view of it. I really don't believe that you're going to have any return of the rotation. That's why the tornado warning was brought down before its expiry time. But nonetheless, I just would like to at least stay with you on this until it clears past the radar and we can get a good feeling and a good sign of it. That'll give us a better view of exactly what's going on. So for those of you that are on the chat, again, you can chime in if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching on YouTube, or you can head to livestream.onedegreeoutside.com, livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. There's also a chat that's set up for you there as well. All right, so on the east side of this severe thunderstorm warning, it feels like you've been under a severe thunderstorm warning forever because this warning came out really early from Scituate down to Buzzards Bay. But look, there's a reason that it did, and it wasn't a bad call. It was a great call by the Weather Service because what they're doing is they're looking at this saying, okay, we've got this line of storms. It's got a history of damage with it. It's moving off to the east-northeast. Its speed is somewhere around 55 or 56 miles per hour. So why should it go from producing 75 to 80 mile per hour gusts to not producing any damage at all, right? And so that's the reason that this severe thunderstorm warning has been out for so long. Your towns and times, I've just put a new list of them on your screen as we continue to receive new damage reports now. This is now coming out of East Providence, Rhode Island, a tree down blocking one lane on Pleasant Street as the storm blew through there. So this thing is still producing damage as it moves off to the east and will continue to do that most likely as it continues to move east of Taunton through Bridgewater and even into Plymouth for that matter as well. It is starting to outrun some of the thunderstorm energy on the south side. So one of the things that we've done in the past, and I can do it for you here in just a moment as well. I want to keep the towns and times on for a moment, but sometimes I actually will go ahead and post the thunderstorm energy that's available. So let me go ahead and do that. It's going to be kind of obscured here by the warnings. Let's get rid of the towns and times for just a moment, get a little bit better view. So what you're looking at here is the colors that we have are thunderstorm energy. So if you come up towards Scituate, you've got about 2,000, it's the top number here, you've got about 2,000 units of energy that show up. That's a lot. If you get over 500, you've got thunderstorm growth or maintenance conditions. And you're doing that pretty much anywhere that when you get along the south shore from Plymouth, running off to the north. Do you notice though, with a southerly wind coming up over Buzzards Bay, you really cut the legs out from under that thunderstorm energy. You drop down to about 240 units down along Buzzards Bay, and you drop in some cases more than that when you get, look at that, down to Falmouth, down to about 100 units, and it picks up a little bit more in the Cape. This tells us that there's really good likelihood that the storms are not going to expand southward. And actually, you can see on the radar, they're staying away from the south coast. So if you're watching from New Bedford to Falmouth to the Cape, I can't rule out that you wouldn't get any showers or downpours coming through, but I can tell you that most of the thunderstorm energy very visibly is farther off to the north, and that's where one of the biggest concerns would be on the storms holding together. So taking away that thunderstorm energy and going back over to the kind of conventional radar scan now, just waiting and with you just a little bit longer here as the storm comes over Route 24 and 495, because I really wanted to get just outside. See that area where you don't see any radar data? That's because that's the radar dome. So the radar scans out to the side. It doesn't necessarily scan straight up. We can look higher up in the cloud, and if I do that, then you certainly get, look at that. You can see that we're almost here. I'm going to almost go 20 degrees or at least 15 degrees up into the sky. But you still get the storm right over Taunton. And so as a result, it's still right over the radar, which means we're still missing some data out of that. So as it continues to kind of slide east, we'll get a better feel for exactly where we are in terms of, we know the rotation was dying very rapidly as it came out of Attleboro. I highly doubt we're going to see a return of rotation. The shape of this storm now really begs for just a swath of straight line winds to run from Taunton right down Route 44 to Plymouth, and then off to the north through Brockton and Hanson and Marshfield for that matter as well. So I think that's where you're going to see this show up. Let me swing it back over to the storm relative velocity. Yeah, and again, it's just starting to come out from the radar, so at this point, still not really getting enough kind of valuable data to be able to tell you exactly what's going on. Swirling wind and rain from every direction in North Attleboro, says T.O. Thank you, T.O., for the update there. Appreciate it. Luckily, the worst is past you as it continues to move off to the east of you. So we'll zoom in a little bit more, and you can see, again, right over 495 and coming up on 104 at Raynham Center is the center of the storm. Bridgewater, would like to have you tucked inside away from windows. Well, I shouldn't say obviously you're inside if you're watching this. We've heard from a lot of you that actually watch this live stream right on your cell phones in all different spots. But ideally, as it comes into Bridgewater here in the next 4 to 5 minutes, we would love to have you inside away from windows because there is a history of this thing knocking down trees, knocking down limbs. It's even done it as close as East Providence. Oh, it looks like we just got something out of, here we go. Attleboro, Massachusetts, 911 call center says several trees and wires down on a couple of streets. Thatcher Street at Black Oak Drive and Newport Ave near Roy Avenue. So if you are in Attleboro, and I've seen some of you, Michael Power's been chiming in from Attleboro. Let's see, T.O. has been chiming in from Attleboro. Let's see, Superdog was from South Attleboro. So again, you can see that latest update on your screen. You did have damage that was done in town, at least in a couple of spots. Again, not surprising given the history of damage that's come with this thing. The storm itself now continues to shift off to the east. Now you're getting to the rain at Randolph and Brockton. It's a little bit interesting on the north side of this storm because around Quincy and Randolph and Brockton, you're technically in a severe thunderstorm warning, but there really is no history whatsoever of damage anywhere across southern Worcester County. We did have a report of a church steeple struck by lightning in Worcester, and the fire department responding to that, not confirmed it was a lightning strike, believed to be a lightning strike. So certainly cloud to ground lightning is still an issue throughout the Metro West, and that'll be an issue into Boston as well. The heavy rain is the issue, which is why, again, you've got a flash flood warning out until 45 minutes past midnight for the Metro West and the suburbs both north and south of Boston, as well as the city itself. So obviously, ideally, if you don't have to be driving out in this right now, don't be, because we're going to have standing water, ponding water, and pooling of water that'll be going on here. So again, we think that the biggest damaging wind threat isn't really on the north side of the severe thunderstorm warning. We think that the biggest damaging wind threat most definitely is going to be on the central and southern side of the warning. In fact, more specifically, I think we could probably take this and draw the exact area that would be most concerned about straight line damaging wind. And let me see if I can do it again because I clicked on the wrong button there. There we go. Bring it down for you. Down to about Fall River, because again, south of that, chances are good that you actually start to get more into that lower thunderstorm energy that we looked at together. So on its current path, there we go. Here's your towns and times. You're talking about, obviously, Raynham is momentarily. We talked about that. Bridgewater is a very short period of time away at 11:59. 12:05 at Handsome. West Wareham at 12:09. One thing, let me switch off of this. You know what I think's going on here? I want to switch. We're going to switch sites. I think we lost the radar out of Taunton. I'm not sure, but let me see. It did take a direct hit out of this. So let me just see if I can get this switched over. We're going to look at the Brookhaven radar out of Long Island and see if we get a little bit better, if it's the same place or if it's going to be in a different spot. Let's see. Give it a second to load. If it does load, may not want to. Let me also put on the, here we go. So here's our composite radar. Yeah, so now we can see there's the storm shifting east of Taunton and over Bridgewater, okay? So here's our updated location on the storm. I think we had a data problem coming out of the radar, which makes sense. The radar took a direct hit in Taunton, Massachusetts, at Miles Standish Boulevard. So it makes sense that we might have seen a little hiccup in the data that came on through. So why don't we go ahead and let's just do a new town. Oh, I've got some lightning here in the Merrimack Valley for that matter as well out my window. But let's go ahead and draw another storm track for you. Again, you're into the rain already at Quincy. I would like to draw where we think the damaging wind is going to be located with this. Bring it right down along the southern end of it. Take it out to the northeast. We'll bring it to its average speed of 56 miles an hour. And there's your updated towns and times now. So again, this is kind of with our correction here in place, figuring that we likely had an issue with the radar data that were coming in. So that's something to be aware of, is we've got updated towns and times, just so you're able to see Marshfield Hills at 12:08, Plymouth at 12:08, South Duxbury at 12:08, Marshfield at 12:09, Provincetown, if it makes it to you, which it should, be about 12:36 by the time it gets in on top of you. So again, if you're following this now, thankfully the tornado warning has been discontinued early for southeastern Mass and Bristol County. Now it's a severe thunderstorm warning that continues for this area off to the east. So that's where we stand for now. I think at this point what I would tell you is from Brockton to Marshfield, And then on the south side, essentially along Route 44 from Taunton to Plymouth, and even down to White Island Shores. You want to stay tucked in, away from windows as this storm comes through. So with that, I think a lot of you probably are ready to move on and go back to bed. Hopefully we were here to help you out a little bit along the way. Just a technicality, your audio only coming out of the left channel. Okay, yep, people, okay, excellent. Thank you, Tanya, really appreciate that. That's something I'll look at on my end to see whether or not there's a way that I can actually change that to stereo. And you know what? I will say good night and goodbye, but before I sign off, let me see if I can actually fix that right now, Tanya. So if you are still on with me, Tanya, I figure at this point the tornado warning's down. We've let folks know all the way to the South Shore. You want to take cover. Tanya, let me see if there's any way that I can actually, all right, so I've got my audio coming out. It's supposedly in stereo. Let's see. Stream K. Let's see what we can do, Tanya. I appreciate you saying this. And part of the reason I really appreciate it is because last time, someone had mentioned this, and honestly, in the middle of severe weather, I had kind of forgotten about it by the end. And this time, since we know that we've watched the tornado warning expire, I'm just looking to see if there's anything that stands out to me. Let's see, what do we got here? Properties. Oh, what do you think? You think you see something? Okay, yeah, all right. Advanced properties. Let's see. Now that's funny. So mono is not checked. I've got it in a stereo with a balance of left-right. You know what, Tanya? I'm going to try clicking mono right now, okay? And we're going to see how, does it sound any different right now? Now is on the mono setting, and now I'm going to take it back off the mono setting, and I don't know whether you heard any difference there whatsoever, Tanya. I appreciate you letting me know about this. Let's see. Thank you for responding. No, I appreciate you letting me know, Tanya. Thank you very much. And I'm just not, I'm going to have to keep playing with it if you didn't notice any difference right there when I just went kind of back and forth. Everything on my end says it should be in stereo, so I will check. Next thing to check would be, it looks like you're on, Tanya, are you watching on YouTube? It looks like you're watching on YouTube if I'm seeing this correctly. So I'll take a look and see if there's anything in the YouTube settings that I can play with that might be able to fix that. Just so you know, we did get a brand new severe thunderstorm warning that was just issued now until 12:15. You heard the difference between mono and stereo. So Rouleau 36, thank you. Should be then on stereo now. Is that you should have it on my phone without headphones? I did hear it change. It sounded better when you switched back to stereo. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's great. So we're on stereo right now then, and hopefully this is taking care of it. If Tanya, if you're still on, I'd be curious to know if you're noticing a difference. Now all I did sounds great. Okay, works great in mono. Okay, so I guess all I did was I switched it to mono and then turned it back off again, and it sounds like it's working better for some of you. So I'm glad to hear that. T-Mats and Rainham, good. I'm glad. Oh, I'm glad you're able to catch this update. That makes me happy that we were able to help you out. So here's the only thing, just so you know, there is a new warning that's out. And it's an updated severe thunderstorm warning from the National Weather Service. And they are still putting a tornado possible tag on here. So one of the things we've done here at 1 degree outside is we've actually put the striations. You can see how it's kind of vibrating across on that eastern side of the warning. If you see that with us, what that means is there's a tornado possible that's been indicated in this. So let me see if we've got the radar back out of Taunton, Mass. It dropped out for a brief period of time. It's not back there? Oh, it is. Okay. Oh, yep. And we've got it back here too. Good. All right. Let's go ahead. Let's swing it over to Storm Relative. Yeah. So this is the concern. This is the concern right here, which is that basically you're talking about, some amount of rotation that's trying to ramp back up again. What had happened with this the first time is essentially this was able to wrap what you see over Bridgewater, the red indicating air moving one way, the green indicating air moving the other, was essentially able to wrap up around itself. And at that point, you get concerned about a quick spin up tornado. So that's the concern. Basically, I think the Weather Service here, this is something where it's a smart move, and it's something you're going to see them doing more of, which is basically just putting out that tornado possible tag in case it does indeed wrap up and needs to go to a tornado warning. That way it's not just a straight transition from, I thought I was getting a severe thunderstorm, to now I have a tornado warning. It's, I had a severe thunderstorm with a tornado possible, and now I've got a tornado warning. So you're going to see that a little bit more often, which is good. What's that, buddy?
1 degree outside with black. So
Oh, wow, really? Interesting. Oh, wow. Okay, still up here, though, which is good. Okay, great. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So just, yeah, we'll stay, you know what, I guess we'll stay with it at this point, right? Rather than come down, if we've got a tornado possible tag on it, we'll continue to watch this for you. And just to give you a little bit better feel for what's going on overall, let's see if I can, every time I try to telestrate, it kind of likes me, it kind of doesn't. No, okay, so, but one of the things that, that you're talking about is basically you've got a feed of moist, warm air coming in on the north side of the storm into Bridgewater. You've also got a feed coming in from the south. If you zoom this out just a little bit, doesn't it almost kind of look like a little bit like a hurricane symbol? Do you see what I'm saying? You've got that tail at the top, you've got the kind of blob in the middle over Bridgewater, and then you get the tail at the bottom. So it kind of is. So what's happening here is basically that is a large-scale rotation that's going on in the storm. So one of the things that you have to be really careful for is you want to have to make sure that you don't get that rotation to tighten in the center. And you see, that's what happened as it came over Cumberland and Valley Falls in Rhode Island. It tightened at the center. And that's when you got the tornado warning that got issued. Okay, so we're seeing, again, a similar type of thing happening here where we're getting that rotation around the storm core. All right, I'm going to swing back over to the storm relative velocity. The good news is, so far, you can see it's not really able to completely wrap around itself. You're not getting that red and green that are really touching, that are what we call gate to gate. And so what that means is you're not really at this point getting something that would be imminent for tornado development, all right? But this is what you continue to watch, and you continue to make sure that it doesn't ramp up more as it comes through. It's interesting, the vast number of severe thunderstorm warnings that are still in effect. There's a lot of overlapping warnings right now. One of the more kind of condensed ones has been from Plymouth all the way up to Marshfield. That one just came out. That's out till 1 o'clock this morning. That also has that tornado possible tag with it. And again, you can see Plymouth, Marshfield, Scituate, Pembroke, Rockland, Duxbury, Whitman, Hanover, Kingston, Norwell, Hanson, Halifax, and Plimpton. There's no question a lot of you in this area right now are waking up to a lot of thunder and lightning as it comes through. Let's see, any chance the issue with the Taunton radar kept the NWS from seeing a potential girl? Nope, actually, Alex, it was working just fine. It seemed to cut out for a couple of scans while the storm was actually just coming off of the radar dome. But nope, earlier there was a good indication of the radar showing up on the rotation. That's why the warning was issued when the storm was coming out of Rhode Island into Attleboro. Did a really good job of picking up on that. Let's swing over to the base velocity now. And let's see what we've got. Yeah, so this is the concern, right? We've been tracking this core of damaging wind, and boy, are we still seeing some really intense wind over 106. Look at this, 74 miles, 75 mile per hour outgoing wind over 106 and 105 right now. That's moving off to the east. So essentially, if you're anywhere along Route 106, you can follow that off to the east. And basically between Route 27 and Route 44 is your core of damaging wind that's coming in right now. So one of the things that certainly we can also do, let me see if I can get this going over here, is I would love to alert the folks who are in the path of that particular storm as it comes on by. At the same time, one of the things I don't want to do is take my attention off of you here on the live stream and off the radar for too long. But let's go ahead, and what we'll do is we'll just draw out this area that's under the gun. Here we go. There we go. We'll put it like this. We'll click OK. We'll say we've been live streaming and continue to for the big storm in your area. Tap here, go into the app and scroll to the bottom of home screen for live stream link. Great, so we'll go ahead and we'll send that out. I don't think I need to put anything else in there. I think I can just do it like that. We're gonna find out in a second. Good luck, everybody. Severe thunderstorm, there we go. Priority gonna be high. We're only sending it to the area that's in the path of the storm. And we're gonna just leave that out for the next hour or so, and we're gonna publish that. And that should be notifying folks that are in the path of the storm right now. Nope, field required, severe T-storm warning. Okay, great, publish. There we go. Try that. Nope. Okay. Okay. Put this in here. And this is why I was saying earlier, it's very tough to do it solo because you end up taking your eye off the live stream to do this. 1degreeoutside.com. Okay, there we go. Publish. Okay, there we go. So it's gone out to there. So now what we've just done is we've just sent out an application notification that to folks that are in the path of the storm that we're live streaming so that they know about it now. But you can see how long that took to do. So one of the things that we've been talking about is just that, you know, when it's kind of a thinly staffed operation, which any startup company is, it just means that sometimes you have to take your eye off one ball momentarily to take care of the other. So here's the updated velocity plot. My goodness, let's take a look together at what we have. Look at this. 84 mile per hour wind now estimated by the radar on the east side of this storm. This is some of the strongest wind that we've seen. And this is continuing to move east across Route 36 and 27. Next up is Route 3. If you're around Duxbury, South Duxbury, Kingston, you want to be tucked. Make sure you're indoors, away from windows. Stay away from those windows because we likely have a series now of trees that are coming down, limbs that are coming down. Let's check our power outages out of MEMA. I want to see where we're at on that. We'll get a refresh there. And not surprisingly, this is a little bit of a lag. Attleboro now is reporting in with 10%, Rehoboth has 10% without power, 18% without power in Seekonk, so that's been part of the issue for us as well. It's been lightning causing power outages from the Merrimack Valley down through Boston and into Worcester, and here is the tremendous wind headed directly across Route 3, headed down Route 14, Duxbury and South Duxbury. You've got a blast of wind that may be able to gust in excess of 80 miles per hour that's coming in on top of you right now. So this is a really serious situation for you with regard to the kind of the dynamic nature of the storm as it comes in. So going back over to the storm relative velocity, where we take the wind and we correct for storm motion, starting to see a little bit of a concern here where we start to see the storm beginning to try and tighten up its rotation just a little bit. So this is going to be one area that's coming in across Route 27 that we're going to pay very close attention to as it continues to move off to the east. If you're familiar with this area and you want to know a little bit more about what's next and who's next, Valley Street is going to be one of the areas that's next. Birch Street is going to be one of the areas that's next. The storm is headed up. There's the new scan. Good. We're maintaining a little bit of separation. The white that you see there is a little separation. We don't have a tight rotation here. It's eased a little bit, but you still have damaging wind now coming in across Pine Street, coming in across Chapel Street, and headed directly for Route 53, Route 3, South Duxbury, and Duxbury. Again, here is the 60-second scans that are coming in. Every minute, we're getting a new update. If I swing you over to not the storm relative velocity that allows us to see the rotation a little bit better, but the actual velocity, the speed of the wind inside of the storm with direction, this is where you start to see the really crazy numbers that are showing up. The bottom number, 75.4 mile per hour outgoing wind on this. This storm is a beast in terms of its wind. Look at this. You come down to Kingston, we're still blasting 62, 63 miles per hour right now. For those of you who are joining us on the live stream right now, appreciate you being here, and I invite you to use the chat. You can go to livestream.1degreeoutside.com and you can use the chat there. Also, we are streaming on Twitch, on YouTube, and on X, so you'd be able to help us out by giving us your reports of what's going on in your neighborhood there as well. Let's get back over to the more standard reflectivity as we get ready to just get absolutely blasted by damaging wind in Duxbury and South Duxbury. I'd like you to prepare for power outages in both Duxbury and South Duxbury with the kind of wind that we have that's coming in on you. So let's make sure it's too late to say go plug in and charge the cell phone, right? It's not going to charge in about 5 minutes. But just understand that you may be losing power here in a very short period of time, and you may lose it for a good portion of the night until crews are able to get out there and make the repairs. I see somebody checking in from Gillette Stadium for the concert. Sorry that I'm just seeing this now. I think that was a little while ago you checked in. I apologize that I got distracted with that and didn't get to check in with you sooner. But bottom line is Gillette Stadium is into the rain, but it is just plain rain. Even most of the lightning now has been able to make its way off to the east. So while there are a few lightning strikes left over near Gillette, for the most part, all the lightning-producing clouds have moved to Brockton and Bridgewater, or most of the lightning-producing clouds have moved to Brockton and Bridgewater, points east. It's just a leftover strike here and there. It is down to just, honestly, a moderate rain right now in Gillette, and so that would be it. If you go to the app now and look at wind speed, it should show pink and it's gray. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Do you know what that means? If you're talking about our app, I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at on that. Chris is taking a look. But if you mean what I'm showing now, rain and wind really cranking up now. It's Scituate. Thank you very much. Appreciate that for that report there, and that makes sense. So Scituate's on the north side of this. So really, our concern is from Marshfield to Duxbury to South Duxbury. This is a blast of radar estimated wind to 80 miles per hour. Reality has been about 75 to 80 miles per hour on the core of some of the strongest wind. And this is what's coming on top of Marshfield at Route 139. North Pembroke just got hit down through Kingston. Kingston has just been through the worst of it. You still have a ton of cloud-to-ground lightning going on. Some of you may be waking up, seeing the notification on your phone that we sent out. Just so you know, we only sent it out for your area along the South Shore in terms of this alert because we're just doing this for you, because you're the ones who are under the gun right now. Here at our house in the Merrimack Valley, we've got lightning strikes and we've got thunder and heavy rain, but this is really the area that we're most concerned about. And I'll show you why. If you're just joining the live stream now, I'll swing you over to the velocity mode and you can actually really look at this, clearly see just coming over Duxbury right now is the wind core that we've been watching. Winds now 73 miles per hour coming out of this storm. Let's continue to probe. We can come down to South Duxbury, and we've got winds that have been on the order of 65 to 70 miles per hour. Kingston, your winds now 40 miles per hour overhead. You already got the blast of 55 to 60 that came through. I'm sure we've done damage in the path of this, and the only reason I say that is because we've had so many reports of damage with this particular wind core. Interesting, I'm just noticing up around Marshfield, you've got another local maximum of wind. It's coming right down 139. So it's about to come right to the coast. You know where 139, you can see it right here, where it loops in right along the shoreline. So you're gonna get blasted any second with this wind right now. And I say any second because remember the scans come in every 60 seconds. Storm's moving at 56 miles an hour. So it's likely on top of you right now when you get along the coastline, when we get along 139, when you get to Plymouth Avenue, you've got the wind on top of you now. Again, it's gonna last you for probably about 4 to 5 minutes of solid gusts that are going somewhere around 60 to 80 off and on. And then once that moves through, the folks in North Pembroke and Hanson can tell you, it really does die down quite a bit after that. We'll swing it over to the storm relative velocity to make sure we don't have any brand new spin up that's going on. And if we zoom in a little bit, it's been trying to spin again, but it's not succeeding. Right now, what we are seeing is, although you see red and green and they are close together, they're not abutting and they're not to the point where I would be imminently concerned that you've got tornadic development. Pretty soon, that center of rotation is going to be offshore, so it's just about to clear off of Duxbury.
They cut it down, the warning.
Okay, yeah, warning's been shaved off. Yep, that makes sense. You can see that warning's now been shaved off to just that small area of the storm core that persists. The storm reports have continued coming in out of Rhode Island, not surprising, from North Smithfield and then back in through Gloucester, Rhode Island. We ended up with a number of trees down, several trees and wires down when you get into Central Falls. That spread into Attleboro, a number of trees that were down in Attleboro. Looks like East Providence picking up some storm damage as well. I'm sure there were some clusters of damage done along Route 44 and north of Route 44 through Bridgewater as this thing moved east. I just think it's going to take a little while for those damage reports to trickle in. Other measured winds that we got, 75 miles per hour out of Danielson, Connecticut. That was the same storm core that's over Duxbury now. And 77 miles per hour when it came over Bradley Airport out at Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Swinging you back to the more customary reflectivity that you're used to seeing. Again, you can see the thunder and lightning is ongoing pretty much anywhere that you've got the yellow and the red, so that goes all the way up I-95 into Boxford and Topsfield. But really, when you come farther down to the south, this is where our storm core has been really nasty and coming across both Marshfield, Duxbury, and South Duxbury. It is raining torrentially in these spots. You don't have the flash flood warning that we have up by Boston, but there's a very simple reason for that. Up around Boston, there was already flash flooding that occurred earlier in the evening with a different storm. So it's very easy to cause new flash flooding when you get across the Boston area. Light blue over Providence in the water, but that's it. Yes. Alex, it's okay with the app feedback. I'm just honestly not sure exactly what you're talking about, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just am really not exactly sure about. It should show pink and it's gray. Wind speed, if you're talking about the wind speed overlay and the interactive radar on the app, that is actually a sustained wind speed estimate. So that's not going to pick up on gusts inside of thunderstorms. So what that is, just so you know, that wind speed, it's inside our app, our radar tab. If you were to switch that to wind speed, that's just your sustained wind speed, and it's like an average over the area. So if that's what you're referring to, that's what's going on with that. But you can always bother me with app feedback. In fact, that's how we get better, and that's how we find out about things that are going on. So yes, okay, good. I got that right, Alex. Good, excellent. So that's what's going on with that anyway. It's a sustained estimate, not an actual thunderstorm gust. For the thunderstorm gust, that's why I bring you the live stream, and that's why we take a look together at what's going on inside the storm. One app that's really good if you're into that kind of stuff, I don't know if you already have it, but there's an app called Radar Scope. If you're really into meteorology, it's going to cost you a few bucks to get it, but you can get all of the kind of moments with the velocity of the wind in the storm, and you can see the storm relative velocity, all the same type of stuff that I show you here. Not quite everything. We've got some really cool things here, like for example, downdraft gust potential. If I swing over to that, what this can actually do is show you what's going on in the center of the storm. By the way, this stuff that I'm using, if you really like this, is called WSV3. It's software that was built by a gentleman named Paul Maravilius right out of Windham, New Hampshire. So this is locally built stuff, and it's funny, we're using, for some of our graphics we show you, we actually are using a company out of Europe, which gives us some access to artificial intelligence type of stuff. And then this is right out of Windham, New Hampshire, our own backyard. But what it does here with the downdraft gust potential is it's taking into account the fact that you've got the real heavy rain and the fact that you've got the wind aloft and estimating what the downdraft gust would be. In this case tonight, it actually was underdone. In this case tonight, it was better to use the actual base velocity. And this is where we've been looking at the storm and kind of probing into the center of it and saying, my goodness, 75-mile-per-hour winds. That's been verifying. So tonight it's been more about the horizontal component to the wind rather than just the up and down downdraft component to the wind. You can see the latest warning has just been dropped now for the South Shore, and not because it's not still storm to beat the band. Just keep in mind that lightning strikes, even if there's a ton of them, you can get thousands of lightning strikes. That's not a criteria for severe thunderstorm warnings. So the warning has been dropped because the threat for damaging wind now is just clearing the coastline, and the threat for large hail, if there was any, but in this case there wasn't, is just clearing the coastline as well. So one last thing that I'll do before we say goodnight is, okay, you saw there's a meso detection here, basically our algorithm inside the system showing us that there's a rotating storm. There's not actually any significant rotation that you need to worry about in that spot. So with that, I think we can probably stand down. We really appreciate that everybody was here with us, and we hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, please go ahead and share it right here in our chat, and we will make sure that we take it to heart and that we do what we can to continue to improve it. I'm going to look into that mono versus stereo thing. Okay, thanks very much, everybody, for joining us. Please sleep well. Everybody's earned it, and we'll always see you at onedegreeoutside.com.